Hello, welcome to another session of Soul Sessions. I'm Deborah Maldonado.
I'm Dr. Rob.
And we are with CreativeMind, and we are excited to continue our series on the personality types for the big five we're talking about and how they apply in personality theory and how we can use them as coaches and being coached, being effective. And today we're talking about conscientiousness, which is the second part of the big five. And before we begin, I do want to remind you to subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our podcast. We love to have you come back every week and get this great content.
Yeah, so last time we talked about openness in relationship to the big five and to what makes a great depth Jungian coach. And openness, we talked about curiosity, creativity, and symbolic thinking. And we saw that it's a spectrum. No one is perfect in that regard, but having that openness to experience really helps us as coaches. The next one, conscientiousness, it's almost the opposite. Conscientiousness is the ability to be structured in our approach to coaching and ethical, of course.
And the main parts are accountability, boundaries, and holding the container for as a coach for the client, and being ethical. I think conscientiousness it can lean in the more rigid place is perfectionism, where we're so conscientious that we don't even ask questions. Almost like I can't ask that question, and we're so rigid with our own rules that there's no space really for any creativity. And so that over conscientiousness, and then the tendency to beat ourselves up and be, overly judgmental of ourselves and hard on ourselves.
Like with all these constructs, it's finding that middle point, right? Finding the balance so that we're not overly conscientious, but we have enough structure and enough discipline to set boundaries, to create safe spaces for our clients that they feel like, this person is mature enough and secure enough in themselves to provide that for me, this space where I can do my transformation.
And so when we think about the persona is a mask. It's not really your natural state. And some people pretend to be conscientious or put on the mask of conscientiousness, like I'm perfect and I'm authentic, or I have authority and I know what I'm talking about, and almost like overly you can't see the cracks in the veneer where you're losing your authenticity. You're trying to be so perfect and so polished that it's hard to connect.
Yeah, it's finding that balance between conscientiousness with flexibility to meet the client's unique needs while adhering to ethical standards. Because ethical standards kind of give us the guardrails, like where am I going too far, or what's the limit of what I can do in a coaching situation. So it gives us those guardrails. So that it creates that sense of safety for the client, right? If we say anything goes, and let's just open up the session to anything that comes up without any understanding of ethics and proper etiquette for coaching,
or like limits of your own training.
Yes, then we're kind of putting the client in a difficult position because they'll feel that uncertainty. They'll feel that no sense of boundary, no sense of
professionalism,
and methodology.
Well, you and I both come from a therapy background. I was a hypnotherapist, and I had to abide by strict rules as far as boundaries with clients, what was ethical, what was not ethical. Highly trained, as a therapist too. Like the standards are even higher with licensure. But coaching is an unregulated field. So many people call themselves coaches and don't have training as a coach. They're not trained in ethics. They get trained, a lot of them, in a technique, one technique, and then they slap the word coach on. I'm a coach. And it's encouraged a lot of times. And what happens is they're kind of just fixing and band-aiding symptoms, and there's really no structure. There's really no structure, no journey. And so many of our clients, the students that come to us, they've done a lot of personal growth. And there's so many methods out there. There's so many systems. I mean, you just plethora of, there's no shortage of it.
I would say there's a lot of techniques.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of techniques, yeah. So you get lost in it. And so they said then that we started doing the training with us, and the Jungian individuation process gives it a structure. They said, oh, now I know how everything fits together. But if you don't have that structure, you don't have a journey you're taking a client on, you can quickly fall into. And when I was a hypnotherapist, and before I did the Jungian work, this is exactly what I did. It was all about what showed up for the client and let me just fix the symptom right now. And that was the way my training was. It was just symptom relief. And I was like, where am I taking this person? That's when I met you. I was so intrigued by Jungian individuation. I was like, now this makes a lot of sense. So having that structure is really important, not to be too rigid where you're so afraid to take any exploratory things with a client, but you also don't want to be so lax that the client gets lost with you.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, in our program, we always emphasize theory because theory provides that structure for us. It gives us a roadmap of the psyche, a way to proceed, essentially. And we're always telling our students, think of theory as a map that helps you guide your client through a difficult process. If you're saying, well, all I wanted to learn is these techniques, and then I can apply the techniques to help kind of to help the client in the immediate situation. Yeah, of course we need techniques, but if you're only applying techniques in the moment and helping your client just in this session, you're not really helping them move forward in their whole process.
And this is a little pet peeve of mine is people that offer single sessions, one session at a time. It really hurts the client, but it also hurts the coach because they're not going to be able to be financially successful if they're just doing one-off sessions with people. Coaching is a process. And so we always encourage at least 3 months for someone to be in coaching. It's not like I'm going to go get a massage this week and I'm going to feel better or get some kind of tapping technique or whatever and feel like that immediate relief. This coaching is a process, and each session doesn't have to be this huge transformation. They kind of layer on each other. Each session helps support the next session, and it's a journey you're taking a client on. But if you're only trained in a technique, you're not trained in a system, you will feel as though the clients are always coming with their problems and you're fixing them, but they're not really getting any traction. And that's how I felt in a lot of the personal self-help I did. It was more like fixing the immediate symptom, and I wasn't really going anywhere. I was going in circles. And so it's really important to have that structure, but also ethics. I think that's really important for coaches. Make sure you're acting within the boundaries of your training. So it hurts every coach when one coach is acting outside of it, because it makes the coaching industry, it tears it down and it makes it less effective.
Yeah. So the question we're kind of discussing is, how does conscientiousness help create a reliable space for transformation? And this is precisely the idea that the model of the psyche, the theory that Jung gives us, and in particular the individuation process, is really clear. It's a theoretical structure that we can apply not only to the immediate situation, but to the long-term trajectory of the client as they go through a transformational process. So it takes them through steps, right? It begins with understanding the persona and the shadow, and moves them into understanding archetypal structures of the collective unconscious and how to integrate those, and then movement towards the higher self. So it guides the individual through a longer procession of transformation instead of just applying kind of Band-Aid techniques here and there that help them in the moment, but don't really affect change.
And when I started working with a coach early on, I was thinking, this is nice, because I booked a year with the coach. It was like a year program. It wasn't like a session here. And I said, wow, I want to work with people long term. I want to see them evolve. I don't want to just see them for a couple sessions and then they disappear. And I feel like, well, I help them with this one little area of their life, maybe, losing some weight or quitting smoking. That's what I did a lot. Or getting over a breakup. I want to see someone actually evolve and become who they're meant to be. And those were my favorite clients. And that's why I shifted to coaching, because coaching gives us that opportunity to help a client long term. So it feels that it's a longer process, but it's longer lasting results when you do that. Yeah. And to be conscientious of where the client is in their journey, and also where to push them, where not to push them, and be very conscientious and make sure the client is taken care of.
Yeah. And one of those, of course, is accountability. Accountability means that as coaches, we're accountable for providing what the client needs in the individuation process. So can we deliver that? Hell yeah. We can deliver a solid theory that can help the client move through their personality dimensions and transformation in a structured way that provides those guardrails, right? And those kind of objective goals. In other words, we're not just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. We have specific goals in doing specific things, like active imagination, dream interpretation. Those things are essentially giving us information about or messages that are coming from the unconscious mind that will guide the client through their process.
And I think in the beginning, the journey is really about, like, the clients come to us with a real life problem, whether it's relationships, whether it's work, whether it's changing careers, looking for my purpose, health issues, needing to, be better balanced.